Columbine in 1999 shattered America's sense of safety when 2 students opened fire, killing classmates and a teacher. Since then, tragedy has echoed in halls of learning. Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, Parkland, Uvalde, each massacre etching deeper scars. Parents grieve, children carry silent trauma, and communities struggle with fear that classrooms are no longer sanctuaries. These shootings ignite fierce national debates about mental health, bullying, violent media, gun laws, and school security, all of them thrust under a relentless spotlight. Yet despite promises of change, the cycle repeats, leaving society desperate for answers. Each name, each loss fuels the urgent demand, never again. Tonight, we take a closer look at what's happening in one county in one state, Volusia County, Florida, where the sheriff is taking a hardline stance and making an example of some very young children getting their first and hopefully only very public perp walks. Is the public shaming of these children part of the answer? I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments. We'll get to everything you just saw, but we have some breaking news tonight, some new developments in the case related to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We've been taking an in-depth look at this case, every development, every twist, every turn as it makes its way now into our system of justice. Tonight, we're getting new details about the surrender of the accused killer. How exactly it happened, who was involved. Because remember, let's go back into time. What we've learned is that the shooter was recognized by his own parents, and his parents had to coordinate this surrender, but they are hundreds of miles away from where all of this happened. So tonight, for the first time, we're hearing from Sheriff Nate Brooksby, who is the Washington County, Utah sheriff, who is describing exactly how this occurred, what the issues were, and how they took into custody who was America's most wanted accused assassin. Let's take a listen.
Obviously, we knew Charlie Kirk was assassinated at UVU in the afternoon. About a 33-hour manhunt ensued, and I was winding down for the evening. And at exactly 8:02 on the 11th, I received a call from a friend of mine who happens to be a retired detective that worked for me for many years. I didn't put that out there initially. I wanted to protect that individual as much as possible. Unfortunately, in the court documents, which is standard, he was referenced as a retired Washington County deputy. So I didn't put that out there. It was in the court docs. I was trying to protect even that information and just saying retired law enforcement in general. So I get a call from my friend, and his said, "Hey, how you doing?" Good. And it's not, he's been retired a few years. We'll call each other. It's not unusual for me to get a call from him or vice versa. And at 8:02 p.m., he calls me. Hey, I can tell his voice is kind of shaky. So my first thought is, who died? Like who's he going to tell me that died? And then I couldn't fathom what actually came out of his mouth. So he said, "Hey, I know who Charlie Kirk shooter is. I know the family through religious association, and he's in Washington County now, and we're working on trying to get him to come in voluntarily." During that phone call, some information was provided about Tyler potentially having some suicidal ideations, was en route to a remote area of Washington County. The parents convinced him not to do that, and conveyed that they would stand by him and help him surrender peacefully. So at that point, that phone call was 1 minute and 41 seconds. I immediately called Sheriff Mike Smith in Utah County, who I knew was at the incident command in Utah County. So for about 40 seconds, I'm telling Sheriff Smith, "Hey, I'm confident we have the shooter in Washington County. We're working on getting him to come in and surrender at my office. We didn't have him yet, and after about 40 seconds, Sheriff Smith's like, wait, what are you talking about? So he was shocked, as I was, to hear the news. And so I repeated myself. He said, you know, how credible is it? I said, you know, I trust this guy that called me with my life. And I think it's time you need to get your people, the lead investigators, headed to Washington County. Within the hour, my friend drove Tyler and his parents to my office, where he was greeted by plainclothes detectives. So that was part of the deal. Is Tyler knew it was just inevitable with all the law enforcement pressure that his picture in the news, the gun on the news. He knew it was inevitable that he would be caught. He was fearful of a SWAT team hit on his house, or he was fearful of being shot by law enforcement. So part of the negotiation and getting him to bring himself in was that we would treat it as delicate and as soft as possible to make him feel comfortable to where he would show up at my office, and that's exactly what happened. So essentially, we weren't the lead agency. Basically, it was about a 2.5 hour waiting in a room, not communicating with the suspect. Our job was not to interview. Our job was just to get him here. So after about 2.5 hours, we ended up getting federal agents and state agents in, and some of my detectives were asked to go out into the community and secure 2 locations, so the parents' home and the apartment that Tyler was living in, along with the vehicle that Tyler was likely driving up at UVU.
Incredible insight into how this all happened. You know, a lot of times we look at law enforcement and we don't see the human part of this, but to get that information, I mean, this was the most wanted person everyone's talking about, especially in Utah. And the sheriff gets the call at the end of the night, and then all the pieces have to go into play. A lot of fascinating parts of all of that. The one thing that really struck me was that he said that the accused assassin basically had reached the point where he knew he wasn't going to get away with it, because all these text messages and communications that he had immediately in the aftermath with his roommate/lover, to me, seemed to indicate that he thought he was getting away with it. Oh, I guess if I can get the gun, and then, like he had this plan, he thought he was going to get away with it, and then reality sort of set in that moment. And with his parents and the detective, the retired detective, helping coordinate all of this, he was brought in safely. The other thing that struck me was he was afraid of dying. He was afraid of dying. Well, he surrendered to a case that is now a death penalty case. Let's bring in our think tank. We've got him live in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Schnipper is with us. Criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy, and criminal defense attorney, the man behind the glasses, Josh Schiffer. Great to see everyone tonight. Initial reactions to the way this happened.
Well, what struck me was that I felt that the sheriff or the head of the law enforcement, like, he got it. Like, you had to give Tyler Robinson a little leverage, because it is their job to get him. How do we get him in? So they kind of had to give in a little, be a little empathetic, play the game, get him in. And it seemed like the liaison, the person he knew that called him, I mean, hats off to that guy. But what I'm happy about is that, he didn't take the cowardly way out. Now Tyler Robinson's going to face the music. Utah's a death penalty state. It's actually a firing squad state. One of 5 states is a firing squad state. They've already filed within 60 days before arraignment that they're seeking the death penalty, and we expect that to happen.
Yeah, there was some fear there, Eklund. Like, he's fearing that the SWAT team's going to come, that they're going to take him out. So that's why he decided, and I guess convinced himself that it was best to just surrender.
Yeah, and the issue is the assumption is the SWAT team is from law enforcement. It could be from other forces. We do not know if there was a conspiracy. We do not know if this was a one-time thing. We do know that he was...
Wait, I just want to hold you right there. What you're saying is, if there are others involved, they might want to take him out?
Quite possibly. The issue is like, that's why it's an investigation. That's why, you know, nothing is written in stone. The fact that somebody turned themselves in doesn't mean that the case is done. It means that that's evidence that possibly he did it. But we do not know if he was the hammer or the hand. We do not know how far it goes. We do not know who else is involved. We do not know what, is this a scheme? Is this a plan? We have no idea. So how this is treated, how this is investigated is very, very important, because we don't know what else we could potentially prevent.
You know, the other part of this, Josh, and, you know, law enforcement did a great job in collecting evidence, right? They say they've got DNA, et cetera, all the videos tracking all the movements. They got the images out there. But in the end, it was him, his parents, who surrendered. This wasn't a case where they figured out his identity. He had to come forward.
You know who won and who solved this case was American values and good people like mom and dad doing what I can't even imagine. Bringing your child in, knowing that your child has admitted to something in Utah. This is a family that has strong American conservative values, knows about what happens to people that are murderers and assassins.
Well, the governor told everybody.
Yeah.
The governor more than once mentioned that this was going to likely be a death penalty case.
And the idea that this mother and father put what is most important, our whole community, in front of their son, counseled them, and then worked to very peacefully bring in the most wanted fugitive America has seen in decades without the assistance and the people trying to take credit. No, this was a young man who realized after talking with his family that the game was done.
Yeah, let's take a listen to Jeff Gray, who spoke about the parents and the surrender.
Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, referring to Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who is a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to turn himself in.
And I know every parent that's watching is like, what would I do? You put yourself in those shoes. I want to talk about another set of parents that we covered in depth here on Core TV in the murder of Gabby Petito. The Laundries, right? So the Laundries versus the Robinsons. How did they handle this situation? The Laundries said nothing, did nothing, got a lawyer, then let their son go and kill himself. Mm-hmm. These parents talked, you know, helped their son turn himself in and prevented him from taking his own life. I mean, these are two completely different ways of handling a situation. Now, at the end of the day, the fact that the parents coordinated this, do you think that helps if we get to a penalty phase? Is that something a jury might look at as a mitigating factor in perhaps sparing his life because he surrendered?
Absolutely not. I think that the jury's going to see the aggravating factors based on Charlie Kirk was basically a star in the making, could have been the future president of the United States down the road, that some radical left kid who got brainwashed murdered somebody in front of 3,000 people openly, a public official, where other people could have been, hurt.
Well, that's the big aggravating factor, right? The potential danger to 3,000 people, including children who are there.
And he's a public official, and I think nothing's a slam dunk in life, but I think that especially in a red-blooded state like Utah, he's he's going down.
But it's not that he's not going to face a lot of serious. It's whether this does contribute to mitigation. The answer to that is yes.
Sure, it does.
It is something. Will it be dispositive? Will it be able to save? Not standing by itself. I agree
Maybe
with
if
you.
he sandwiches it with a guilty plea.
Well, I believe that a guilty plea would almost...
But not a deal. I'm saying you just go in and say, I did it.
So...
You just say you did it.
You want to get deep? Because here's how... You're talking about how you bust a death penalty, because you're right. One very valid tactic is, hey, arraignment or first appearance. I did it. I'm guilty. I absolutely shot and killed Charlie
Taking
Kirk.
responsibility.
Taking responsibility right now. And dare the state to put him up on death penalty, because you still need 12 people to agree.
Right, right. And
guess what?
Parkland, he admitted it.
When you have
Unanimous.
a victim that is potentially divisive, and in every death penalty case, I don't care who the victim is, you always go beat up the victim, because it's part of defending a death penalty case. I don't care if it's Mother Teresa. You're going to go beat her up.
Don't do it here.
You say that, but guess what? Mr. Kirk, a lovely man, had some divisive positions, and many people could find his political position to be challenging.
In Utah?
Utah has some strong progressive values out there. It's a 40-60 state.
Okay. Eklund, I'm not a mind reader, but I get a feeling you have something to say.
Eklund's turn.
I think that in order for this case, because at the end of the day, we want the victim to get justice. That means that you want the proper people or person who committed this crime to be held accountable. The issue is the moment you open up the gamer space, the dark web, the moment you that is evidence upon evidence. Those are hours and hours and hours. That is boxes upon boxes upon boxes. That is the difference between, murder is the unlawful killing of another with malice aforethought, either expressed or implied. You need to prove malice. You need to prove the intent. You need to prove that. That's going to take some time, but I believe that that's also going to uncover lots of things.
There's more to this. That's what Eklund is telling us tonight. All right, Think Tank is staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about stopping a school shooting before it happens. Down in Volusia County, Florida, the sheriff there is doing something very different than I'm seeing anywhere else in the country. Is it the right call? We'll talk about that, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Investigates, baby Emmanuel Harrow was reported abducted by his parents, but then they were arrested for his murder. His father was seen out searching with detectives, but the baby has never been found. Where is little Emmanuel Harrow? Tonight, we investigate.
My two best friends were just murdered.
Join me for a Court TV true crime series where we take you from the crime scene to the courtroom.
Donna Adelson hates every piece of grass that Dan Marcel ever walked on.
It's something that'll haunt all of us forever.
It always seemed like he was covering or deceiving.
This was a whole different level.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands, a Court TV original series. Season premieres September 27th.
Only on Court TV.
All right, so everybody's camera on the top one. Everybody's going to walk this way, all right?
He's 11 years old. Hopefully, this is his only perp walk ever, but it's for real. It's happening down in Volusia County, Florida, where the sheriff is taking a hard line against some young accused offenders. This is reality. 11 years old. A lot of people reacting to this tonight. The sheriff put this out on social media. Obviously, purposefully so people will talk about it, people will look at it, and hopefully, I believe from the sheriff's perspective, it has the impact that he's looking for. Let's check in with Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who's been looking into this case for us. Cody, a lot of people shocked by this video because of how young he is. Give us the story behind the arrest and what's happening here.
Well, as you stated, Vinny, Volusia County, Florida, 11 years old. That is Caden Sanford. Now, at 11 years old, Caden is now charged with a felony for threatening his fellow students at Southwestern Middle School because he was, quote, angry and having a bad day. And because he was angry and having a bad day, he wrote out a kill list, a hit list on his desk. Now, the sheriff, of course, posting this on Facebook, on social media, he said, quote, along with this specific video, he said, if you're tired of this, imagine how the 99% of students, parents, teachers, and school staff are feeling. And I'm sure, Vinny, as he stated, 99%, there are a lot of parents, teachers, other students feeling this way because having a bad day doesn't equal making a kill list or a hit list for your peers or your friends or your students who are at this school.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered the story where we get this information after the fact. We say, why didn't someone do something? So I guess what the sheriff is doing something very, very public here. Now, there was also a 13-year-old arrested?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at Derek Fontain's perp walk.
All right, come on, Derek.
You turn around, face me. Go ahead and have a seat on the bench.
Now, Vinny, unclear as to why his shirt was off at the beginning of that perp walk. But again, 13-year-old Derek Fontaine. Now, he is also charged with second-degree felonies. Now, he shot a video of himself loading and handling a gun. And then he also went as far as sending that video to other students and people in his classes, along with rap lyrics that talk about taking a life. Now, he went to Deltona Middle School in Volusia County. Now, of course, that video caused students and parents some concern, and some students stayed home out of fear. Now, in addition to his arrest, Vinny, deputies provided Derek's mother with multiple firearm locks and ensured that all her firearms are properly secured. So essentially, Vinny, there's a chance another potential school shooting was avoided here with this arrest.
All right, we've got another minor, Xavier Pineda. And what's the story behind that arrest?
Yes, 15 years old, Vinny. Let's take a look at Xavier's perp walk.
Here's a wall up high. Here's up. All right. Let me see here. This one. It's okay. Step forward in here. Have a seat right there, all right? Right away.
Now, Vinny, Xavier, 15 years old, attended Deltona High School. Now, what he did and why he was arrested and charged with second-degree felonies, he wrote a threat on his school laptop about bringing a gun to Deltona High School to shoot another student. Now, him writing this threat triggered what is called down there a gaggle alert. And gaggle is pretty much a student safety software that sends out an alert to school officials once the software detects potentially harmful or concerning content on school-issued devices. So it picked up on that threat. The school's resource deputy responded and detained Xavier before he even got on the bus to come home. Now, Pineda admitted to writing the threat, but he says he didn't mean it. He was just angry about getting picked on. But again, he's now arrested and charged with second-degree felonies.
All right, and there's one more 13-year-old?
One more young man, 13-year-old Jasper Cassell. Vinny, let's take a look at his perp walk.
okay? Okay, but we're gonna get you out, okay? All right. Turn. Okay, we're gonna walk this way, okay? Okay. This way? It's gonna go this way, all right, buddy? What's your name? Jasper? Okay. I'm trying not to put them too tight, but you have small wrists, okay? If I don't put them tight, you're gonna slip them. We don't want that, right? Good. All right, bud. Okay, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna go in here. Just have a seat, okay? Yep, I'll fix those in a few, okay? Just have a seat, bud.
So Vinny, 13 years old, a young man there, he was arrested because he drew a picture of an AR-15 style rifle on his desk at River Springs Middle School with the words, blank my school. You can fill in the blanks there, and wrote those words with a date and time. Now, Jasper also said he'd been bullied, but he didn't report it, said he was gonna take care of it for himself. But again, facing second-degree felony charges, Vinny. And the Volusia County Sheriff down there, he wanted to emphasize, you know, in those posts, in a statement on those posts, that bullying is a problem. It's a very real problem, but making these threats, these violent threats, is never the answer.
All right, Cody Thomas, great reporting. Thank you so much. Let's bring back in our think tank, chomping at the bit. David Schnipper, Eklund Mercy, Josh Schiffer. Josh, I can sense from you have something to say.
Hey, Deputy Volusia, whatever, he's a pro at bullying, knows lots about it, because he's a bully with a badge who basically just abused a bunch of legally incompetent children. Not that I'm excusing their behavior, because guess what? Little boys do the most incorrigible, stupid, insane things in the years. I drew thousands of guns.
They also shoot up schools. That's part of the, I mean, that's what we're talking about here,
So
though.
do we regulate 13-year-old boys or guns? Notice they left mom with gun locks because she couldn't control her kid. She didn't get arrested, and they left the guns in the home. They brought the kid and put him in jail. But mom and the guns? It's Florida. Everybody's got guns. You can go to Florida and buy guns at a gas station.
America has guns because we have a Second Amendment. That's not the debate here.
Go
the
to New
debate
York, wander around Manhattan, tell me how many guns you see not in the possession of the police. You see people, individuals walking around with open carry in New York? No.
They don't show you their guns.
Go look at gun possession.
Oh my goodness, do we need to take them to New York?
I'll go to Florida and New York. We'll film it as a special.
Okay. What are your thoughts here? Because this is obviously controversial, number one. There's the specific deterrence, like a scared straight program for these kids, but there's also a level of general deterrence because everyone in their schools, everyone in Volusia County is going to be talking about this tonight.
Well, what if they did this with the Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold back in April of 1999 in Columbine, and maybe it could have stopped it? Look, I think each one of those individually are a little different, but overall, I mean, this sheriff is not playing around. I mean, there's 47 school shootings that have happened so far in 2025. In the last 4 years, there was 80, 84, 85, 82 something. It's going up. It's increasing from even 7, 8, 10 years ago. So they're not taking any chances. This sheriff in Volusia County, where it's an hour and a half where I grew up, an hour and a half south, he's not playing. I know the Deltona area well. They're not taking any chances. I understand what Josh is saying, and I happen to agree with him somewhat. But, you know, you can't take chances sometimes. And so at the end of the day, if you're going to have a hit list, if you're going to
have a specific date,
video, I mean, you got to take this stuff very seriously. We just did the Charlie Kirk thing. We are at a very, very delicate and time of our life. And politically.
But delicate, look at the slippery slope, because we also just saw AI, the Gaggle. Gaggle's a program. I'm familiar with it. It scans everything the kids are typing. We saw a computer program find something a kid wrote, interpret it the way the computer program did, and now that kid's in jail. Yeah. That is thought police. That is predictive arrest. That is criminalizing
Oxford school
thought.
shooter drawing pictures that morning ends up killing people in his school, destroying lives. Nobody did anything.
All right, so why don't you hire
he was
teachers
literally
and not
drawing pictures.
Oh my God, I can't. So here's the thing. The problem is that you kind of ruin 4 lives in the sense that your first go-to is jail. I didn't hear parents mentioned. I didn't hear an IEP mentioned. I didn't hear a psychologist mentioned. We have adults who have PTSD from being arrested for a simple speeding ticket. Now you put a child, 11 years old, and you record it for the world to see, and he's already been bullied. Now you gave his bully so much ammunition. That kid is going to have this on his back for the entire rest of his life.
Hey, Eklund.
They did that to all of the boys. For what? They are kids. They don't know any better. Instead of teaching them, you're putting handcuffs on them.
Is it mutually
and parading
exclusive?
them. It's not fair.
Do you think those
They deserve to be hurt? You mean to tell me that there's still bullies out? The bullies aren't being arrested, but the kids are? We don't even know the full story, and you're going to inflict PTSD on them? They're children.
You're guaranteeing those kids come back.
Exactly. You're getting them.
100%.
You're getting them primed for prison. They know what it feels like. They know what the back of the car feels like. They know what the handcuffs feels like. They know the cold room in the prison feels like. They know what it feels like being talked to like an animal. God, my heart breaks for them.
The flip side is other kids will see that and now they'll think.
No, they won't.
Oh, yeah, they will.
No, they won't.
They will a couple of kids is fine until it's your kid.
No.
Oh, you're sacrificing incompetent children as the
children were not
public
picked
safety.
randomly.
No.
There was actual conduct. One kid's posting a video showing the actual weapon that he was going to use.
And if his parents had enough money, you wouldn't have seen anything.
Absolutely. And guess what?
I don't know how much money
you go look at the other kids, what they're drawing.
Anything.
You go look and see what the other kids are drawing. Go poll teenagers. Which one of you has ever wanted to burn your school down? Every single one of them. Which one of them's always been angry at a teacher?
Not going to be
This is ridiculous. This is criminalizing child brain.
Central Florida, they're going to be the school shootings.
A depressed place. It's just going to be a place where kids cannot be children. Children cannot get. The reason why we have age limits, the reason why is because they're children. The reason why they are, they can't be.
But there are children that are shooting children.
No, but here's the thing.
Who's giving them the guns?
Who's giving them the guns?
Where did the state of Florida gives you a gun the moment you fall on the ground? It's guns everywhere.
At that point, it's like at one point you're going to have to.
In Florida, you can only be charged an adult at age 14 or over. So at least most of them are under that age. So they can't.
Let me ask you, do you really think that you can change the Second Amendment? Do you honestly think that
that's a discussion for a different day?
No. Just yes. Do you think it can actually be done?
I believe there's reform for gun policy in the United States.
Changing the Second Amendment.
You don't have to change the Second Amendment to increase gun safety in America. That's a falsity. You're buying into the lies of pro-gun groups.
Lies. I've read the Constitution.
We can require insurance. We can require lots of things. The courts are very open to regulating the possession of firearms. It's just that politicians are chickens, and they put babies in graves rather than stand up
practical solutions.
It's not going to stop anybody from getting a firearm.
I don't see the Constitution being changed.
But anybody can get a firearm. Anybody can get a knee.
We got to get to the next segment. Great job, everyone. Great passion. When we come back, some more kids in Florida getting in trouble. Look at what they did to this library at the school. But they were turned in by their moms.
Freddie, you're good. Yep, you're good.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? There's
Secondary?
been a fire recorded in the building.
Hey, someone check
Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building.
If you guys want to keep going, I'll do a secondary in here. Just, I know.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? There's been a fire recorded in the building. Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building.
Lock.
guns drawn. They didn't know what they were getting into. It was simple teenage and pre-teenage shenanigans and vandalism. They did figure out who did it. $50,000 worth of damage. Take a look. Completely destroyed the library/media center at the Friendship Elementary School. Well, why would you do it? Well, maybe just because you're a young boy, I guess. And guess what? They were caught. They were turned in by their moms. Mom turned them in. They went there during the day, then they came back at night to look at the damage and to cause more. They've been charged with 2 counts of burglary, 2 counts of trespassing on school grounds, criminal mischief, and theft. So, let's see if things have calmed down here. Let's bring back in our think tank. Live in studio, David Schnipper, Eklund Mercy, Josh Schiffer. What I like here are the moms stepping up and turning them in.
Absolutely.
Like, this is nonsense.
Absolutely. I mean, props to the moms. These kids are going to be on a lot of probation, a lot of restitution. There going to be a lot of bagging the groceries at Publix, paying all that back. I mean, it's incomprehensible that they would do that. I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know what happened in their upbringing that they would do that and think it's funny or whatever. But at the end of the day,
Josh looks like he's done it.
It's not that
I think he's done this.
Yes, I have. I've done lots of horrible criminal things when I was a kid.
$50,000 worth of damage?
I don't want to say $50,000, but the 80s were really exciting. And back then, guess what? Little boys, chemically, biologically, are incompetent monsters, and they can be talked into doing the dumbest things ever.
Sure.
Very easily.
I agree.
You were one, I was one.
You got to fear your parents.
Yes.
You got to fear your parents. And if I had done that and I went
your dad and mom would beat my ass.
Not only that, but how many movies on Netflix, on Paramount, of kids that have damaged, that have TP, that have done all of these things?
It's an American tradition to damage other people's property, practically.
To do these things and then get, and be considered whatever in your high schools. So you can't have it on movies. You can't have it on that. I think that what they need to have is that to do that amount of damage, this didn't just pop up. These kids have been exhibiting things
No, I'd say that could absolutely pop up.
That ain't toilet paper.
Yeah, no, and that's not
the whole toilet papering or neighbor.
And you know that law enforcement estimates of damages is the first thing that they start lying on, because they'll tell you it was $100 million and it was $5. But here's the important part. Mom got involved. And if you ask every criminal defense attorney on this bench, two moms, what's the big difference in clients that are successful and have an issue and then succeed versus ones that don't? Families.
Yeah.
More family you've got, the more you are going to be successful.
To me, that's the first line of defense in all of this. Yeah. Whether we're talking about potential school shooters out there, or we're talking about kids like this, the first line of defense is at home. And if the folks at home have the same mentality that these moms have, that listen, there's a problem, I'm going to step forward.
So let's take
I'm not going to enable my child to continue this.
But it's not that simple. Like, people, it's not that simple. I think you want to be, people want to be good parents. They want to have that time. You can't be there all the time.
Right.
There are holes. There is things like the dark web. There are definitions that parents are learning this week that they had no idea.
So I'm betting there's no dads. My thing is there's no dads there, because if there were dads there, they wouldn't be doing that, because boys...
That's a broad brush, brother.
We fear...
Absentee dads are awful,
absentee dads, and that's because if there's dads there, they ain't doing that.
But no, why don't we, instead of spending the billions of dollars on prisons, why don't we all get to the thing we agree on? The earlier we intervene and get in front of these young people's lives, the more we can keep them from being that first bust, that recidivist, whether it's getting fathers and other people involved, keeping kids busy in after-school programs, supporting moms with more support, because we got single moms who can't be at home because they're earning a living, and that's when their kids are finding problems.
I don't know if this is a single mom situation in this particular case.
I'm just saying. But across the system, we spend billions on locking people up rather than your local Children's Family Services. Find me a state with a good Children and Family Services division. Any of the 50. Find me one that does its job well.
And
they're overburdened.
Absolutely. We don't care until they're breaking the law and we lock them up.
We also have the elimination of third spaces, like Boys and Girls Clubs, things that kids can do, like the sand lot, baseball team. The issue is that a lot of the things that are geared for children now, if you are not exceptional, they're not geared to you. Like, if you can't make it to the NFL,
right?
You can't
if you're
make
not
it to
the top,
NBA,
we're out of time for tonight, but this has been amazing. David Schnipper, Eklund Mercy, Josh Schiffer, and I didn't mess it up. Schiffer, Schnipper.
We want more jokes.
Yes. There we go. All right, when we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Jake and Rebecca Harrow reported their baby, Emmanuel, abducted by a stranger. Now they're in custody, charged with murder, but Emmanuel is still missing. Do his parents know where he is? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Saturday nights on ION
is our night.
Let's go! Double headers every Saturday at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern. The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board, and we've got a verdict in the tragic drive-by shooting and killing of a 4-year-old girl. Her name, Sunny Bell. Let's take a look.
State of Florida versus Quandarius Hammond, Devontae Sampson, Jalen Bedward, Andrew Thompson, and James Denson. Verdict form: we, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment as to Quandarius Hammond. The defendant is guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder of Sunny Bell, as charged. And did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment as to Devontae Sampson. The defendant is guilty of first-degree premeditated murder of Sunny Bell as charged. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment as to Jalen Bedward. The defendant is guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder of Sunny Bell as charged. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment as to Andrew Thompson. The defendant is guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder of Sunny Bell as charged. And did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment as to James Denson. The defendant is guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder as charged. And did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge a firearm? Yes.
Justice tonight for Sunny Bell. All guilty, all going to prison. All right, folks, take a look at your screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Jeremiah Javon Ryan Brooks. Jeremiah is just 17 years old, missing out of Vancouver, Washington since September the 15th. If you see Jeremiah, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-LOST, or you can call the Vancouver Police Department in Washington. That number's on your screen. Okay, folks, don't go anywhere for another hour of live true crime. And please, 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 after the discussion we had tonight, let's prevent those children from ever having to think that they have to strike out and use violence against their classmates. Please don't forget to hug the kids.